The first time that I ever spent my own money on games would be we were already together. In-app purchases were very new at this time. It was Facebook. Facebook had like a bunch of games.
Oh, yes.
Meron sila yung mga life. So like after 5 lives, you would have to wait a period of time bago ka magkaroon ulit ng life sa game na yon. I would be very impatient. Like I would be like, I still want to play this game. Like I need to have like 2 more lives so I can beat this level. So I would purchase yung energy para makakuha ako ng energy to play the game.
And what was that? Was that your first time to spend?
That was my first time to spend.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes.
So you never spent for games before? Who would buy you your games?
My dad would buy the games. But I didn't have to spend my own money is what I meant. Like I didn't make a decision.
All right, gotcha.
I didn't make a decision to like take out my credit card and like spend money on a game.
Well, the first time that I ever spent my own money would be early on. Early on, definitely. I would say in middle school. So maybe grade 5,
Wow,
6.
middle school. May ganun pala dun.
Well, now it's called middle school.
Okay.
Before it was just grade school. I'm keeping up with the times. Now it's like K-12, whatever. I don't even know anymore.
Okay.
I'm just semi up to date. But middle school, grade 5, 6, or 7, I had allowance already coming in. All the PlayStation games I knew that was available was pirated. They were like 30 pesos for a game.
Really?
Yeah. And then the original games were 2.5. But the concept of piracy was very weak back then. We didn't really get it. The internet wasn't the best source of information yet.
Also, nobody knew about the implications of it at that time.
Yes.
And you were
yes.
what? How old? 11 years old?
I was ignorantly and innocently buying those pirated games for 30 pesos.
This just made me realize something. Before I spent on Facebook games, I spent before in high school. I would secretly make my own lunch so that I could spend my lunch money on Ragnarok. Like I would buy the cards so that you could get stuff in Ragnarok and then you would have put it in your account and stuff.
Ragnarok Classic.
Grabe, bata pa lang tayo, gumagastos na tayo sa game.
Yeah. And then eventually this grew. I started working. I think in college, my love for video games kind of tapered off for a while. I think a big reason there was because of spending capacity. I just didn't have enough money to keep up with all the games that were coming out. And at this point, piracy, it was an issue that we were more aware of. Of course, the government was clamping down on those who would be creating these pirated copies of video games. It got a lot more difficult. But as soon as I started working again, I slowly found myself spending on games. Financial aspects of gaming is a big deal.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Yeah. Spending in games, like what I mentioned kanina, when I first spent on Facebook games, I mean, that was the start of it. One purchase would be 50 pesos. But
$1, yes.
That 50 pesos would add on if I spent 50 pesos every day. That's $30 down the drain into a game. It's still continuing until this day. We still spend for our games.
For Candy Crush, we were competitive in terms of the stages. Pag naunahan ako ni Bones, I would secretly spend.
Oh, I know this. I wasn't spending kasi on Candy Crush.
I know, Monizy was completely against spending. Parang ayaw talaga niya gumastos. As much as possible, hindi siya gagastos. Ako, mas open ako. I had a credit card at that time and I would freely use it. I was like, okay, $1 only hearts for 1 hour.
I'd be like at level 100 and he's like, Bonizi, I'm at level 120. I was like, what? Yesterday, you were like lower than me. And then I found out that he was spending on his games. And I was like, why are you spending on energy of this game? You can just wait. Why aren't you patient?
Okay, and I was thinking, I work to earn money, and this is something that makes me happy. And I think $50 is a reasonable amount to make myself happy.
When you say $50, you mean 50 pesos, right?
50
Not
pesos.
dollars, right?
50 pesos.
Okay.
At that time. Kasi yun yung parang maximum namin eh.
Yeah.
But as time went on, as you spend $1 or 50 pesos, you would think, oh, maybe $5 or 250 pesos isn't so bad. And that becomes $10 and that becomes 1,000 pesos. It's quite the crazy cycle.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you don't even notice until you get your credit card bill and you're like, wow, I can't believe nadagdagan yun.
And there are stories on the internet that you would see kids who have a hard time controlling their impulses. Na the parents would get shocked every month because they would look at their credit card bill and it's like 100,000 pesos because the kid was going crazy on their cell phone. just buying in-app products for their games. So it's really become a legitimate issue for relationships. How do we deal with that? How does a couple deal with that if one of the partners is spending excessively on games to the point na medyo detrimental na sa lifestyle nila? Yung pangbigas nila, ginastos na lang sa games. Paano yun?
When is it okay to spend on games and when is it not? Another question. Is it okay to spend on games?
Yes, I think it is okay to spend on games, just like you would spend to watch Netflix, just like you would spend to go to the movies. I think games are a form of entertainment. It is all right to spend for entertainment. People work behind these games, like people work behind to produce movies.
Yes.
So it's a business, and that's completely all right. It is within the rights of anybody to spend on any game that they want or any in-app purchase. However, just like anything else, there has to be a limit relative to your lifestyle.
Or within your means.
And within your means.
Okay, so what would you say is that limit? Like, when does it become excessive?
If you have a budget for the month, you have to adjust that budget for just one category, which is gaming. I think that is automatically when it becomes a problem, because that should never happen.
So, kunwari, may budget ka for food. And then, yung ginastos mo sa gaming, you have to take it from your food budget. Then it becomes excessive.
Yeah. So, anytime na nagagalaw yung essentials mo, yung budget for essentials mo, that would make gaming spending a problem already.
I think one solution that we've been able to come up with in terms of spending for games is we are actually very conscious about our spending for other things. Like, do we spend on clothes? Not as much, only if we need it for work. Do we spend on eating out? We don't really eat out as much anymore. We were very conscious with that because we wanted to exert more effort in spending in our games. Anything else that we thought na pwede nang tanggalin in terms of entertainment and, I guess, eating out, we moved that to our gaming budget na.
I have a budget for everything in the house every single month. I meticulously put down and note all our expenses. So para sa akin, very clear kung ano yung mga expenses natin in certain things. Let's say for groceries, for marketing, for utilities, for extracurricular, and for gaming. That's really important because we sit down every month, Bonizi and I, and we discuss, okay, eto yung naging expenses natin last month. Eto gaming natin. Sobra ba to? And we've had this discussion.
Oh,
and there were
yeah.
times talaga that we would sit down. Bonizi would look at me and I was like, hey, Fofo, sobra to. Hello? What's
Yeah.
wrong with you?
No, I remember that month. We were doing our expenses. Fofo gave me a look. It was a look of, oh my God, I did something. And I was like, what? And he said, Bonizi, I'm going to be completely honest with you. You're going to get shocked. I spent this amount of money and my brains almost popped out of my head when I heard the amount.
Sobra siya.
We have never spent that amount of money together. And this was only him spending
On games.
by himself. With us combined, mas less pa dun. So let's say he spent 10 pesos. Okay, let's just
Yeah.
give it a number. But our usual spending together was 5 combined. Malaki to, Fofo. You spent a lot that month.
Yeah, I spent a lot. It was a moment of me being irresponsible and not disciplined at all. The thing is, because I was honest enough with Bones, and nakakahiya yun, I was embarrassed to tell her because I was taking care of the finances and ako yung naging irresponsible for that month. But when I told her, she put me in my place. She told me, you can't do this. So you have to fix it. It was nice hearing that, but I could only hear that if I was honest with her.
So what was the solution that we came up with when you spent that much money and when we confronted each other about it?
The easy solution was magbawas lang ako because it was an unnecessary expense. It's not like something was going to happen to us if I did not spend on gaming, diba?
Yeah.
I took account of what were my gaming expenses and where can I cut down but still be happy. Because obviously, excessive naman siya. Hanapin ko muna nasaan yung sobra. So the next month, I spent less, pero mataas pa rin. So we sat down and Bonizi called me out again. Binawasan ko ulit. So ako, I was just willing to listen to the feedback and adjust. This month, this whole year, since we got married, it's been at an all-time low, I would say.
Yeah, I think we're efficient. in a
Gaming
way.
expenses and entertainment expenses have been at an all-time low, yet we're extremely happy and still very much entertained with the things that we do from day to day.
And we realize that we don't have to spend on certain in-app purchases. Like we don't have to buy everything, but we make sure that we spend smartly. Things that we know that will be efficient for us in our games.
But Bonizi, what happens when someone is hiding it? Because we've had stories where the gamer person in the relationship would hide their expenses and nagdududa na yung isa. So what happens there?
That becomes a problem for the relationship because you're putting strain to the financial situation of the family. Because syempre, may budget kayo. And if you spend it in a game where you get short-term fulfillment, what if you need to use your rainy day fund? Like what if there's an emergency and you don't have that money because you spent it in your game and you weren't honest to your partner about it? Then it becomes a problem for the both of you because one, you were lying to your partner, and two, you don't have those funds to save yourself or to save the problem that you're facing at that moment.
As a solution, I mean, aside from being honest, I think two things that really work for Bonizi and me is one, do those budgets. Budgeting every month and really sitting down as a couple. Kahit isa lang naman yung gumagawa. Pero you need to analyze it as a couple and discuss. Kahit 5 minutes lang kasi pare-pareho lang naman usually eh. Kung wala namang problema, then okay na.
Yeah.
I think that budgeting helped us a lot and it helped us communicate, okay, how do we feel about these certain things? Because what's over budget for one person is not over budget for another and vice versa.
Yeah, you just need to be completely honest about it and explain to your partner. So every time Mikael has an expense in his other games that I don't play, he really runs it by me. Like he's like, package 1 is worth, let's say, $10. And the reason why I'm buying this is because it's limited edition. I won't be able to get it again. I think it's an important buy.
And budgeting doesn't just work for couples. It also works for siblings. It works for roommates, especially when you're budgeting for shared essentials. I think it's really important and I'm an advocate of it. The second thing is being able to talk.
And listen, Talk
Regularly.
and listen.
So kahit once a month, you say, okay, let's just talk about our, let's say, financial situation. Or let's talk about the things we like doing and what we want to do. So if you have that discussion once a month, ang laking bagay nun.
Yeah.
Kasi you might discuss things that you otherwise might not discuss over the course of a regular day.
Yeah.
So ito yung space. So, okay, every 15th of the month, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna try to think of things that we can discuss regarding our entertainment and the things that we want to do.
Let's say, for example, Mick and I want to travel. Nagbabawas kami naman sa games or sa other things that we spend on entertainment just so that we can have a travel fund.
We'll sit down and say, Fofo, I want to try to save and go to Iceland. So I think ito yung kailangan natin bawasan. Ito, gusto mo to? You like spending on your games, maybe we need to cut down. Are you okay with that? That's where the conversation will start. And that's helped us in our 10-year relationship, right?
So solutions for gaming spending is 1, budget with your partner, whether they're a gamer or not, so that you're aware. And 2 is constantly talk to each other, communicate to each other the pros and the cons of these things and what you're doing monthly.